Follow our social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at Indie Rocks UK, or our website, www.indierocks.co.uk. Indie Rocks Radio. New artists and classic hits 24 hours a day.
They say I live in the past.
Walk on the Wild Side. And you were telling us about the saxophonist, Ronnie Ross.
Ronnie Ross, he played on the first Simply Red album, Picture Book, on a track called Sad Old Red. So, on that song, what stands out most for you?
For me...
Turning the tables on you here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, welcome to interviewing me. For me, it's always the backing vocals. I don't know why.
Right. What about the bass line?
Oh, the bass line just goes all the way through. That holds it all together.
You know that was recorded in England?
No, I didn't know that.
Bass player was a guy called Herbie Flowers, and he never got paid. He never got a proper credit for that. He got paid 17 quid for that bass line. And without that bass line, that song would not be the same. And a guy called Richie Dahmer on the drums playing brushes. But I couldn't find anything else out about Richie Dahmer, actually. And Dharma sounds like he's made that name up, actually, I think. It's those sort of hippie names.
And in terms of session musician, Herbie Flowers would have done the bass as a session musician. Is that the way it still works? You know, it's a flat rate, or can you, if you're good enough, not good enough, if you're well known enough, is there a way of, you give...
Doubtful. You get your money. You might be negotiate more than a musician's union rate, but... this is what you get, and, say goodbye to any rights over your part.
Royalties or anything, yeah. Right, next up, it's it's not our second last song, it's our third last song. We're okay. This is Sly and the Family Stone, We Can Do It.
This comes from the album Ain't But the One Way. It was Sly's 10th and final album, came out in 1982. It started off as a project between Sly Stone and George Clinton, but they had a fallout. Again, it was another Warner Brothers connection with this. They brought a guy called Stuart Levine in. Yeah. Stuart Levine produced Simply Red albums.
He worked with a lot of other people in the 80s as well, didn't he?
Oh, tons of other people. I mean, huge catalogue of people Stuart's works with, and I think still does. I think he's still going. Not a young guy, but Stuart was brought in to take control of the project. And I remember talking to Stuart about this because they had to redo drum tracks and things like that. And so if you listen to the album very, very closely, you can hear like a ghost drum track sometimes in the background of things, and then these other drums were put on top that Stuart did. So We Can Do It was one of my sort of favourite tracks. I love the horns on this. I love the feel, the groove of the drums, but the horns are absolutely fantastic.
Show you right. To eat some kind of shoes, no oven. It's warm and sweet, sweet, sweet. Oh, show you right. Yeah. Oh, show you right. I know I got to be. Coming on like this. From the
Indie Rocks Radio.
Another brilliant track chosen by my guest this evening, Chris Joyce. Chris, when Stuart Levine was working with you in the studio and Simply Red, what does a producer like that bring to a band?
Stuart had a background in jazz and arrangements. In the mid-60s, he was a very, very accomplished saxophone player, and he actually went to School of Music in New York with Herbie Hancock, Donald Byrd, and his roommate was Hugh Masekela.
Oh, wow.
And in 1965, Hugh and Stuart had a number one in America with a song called Green Grass. So Stuart had huge pedigree, huge knowledge of jazz music, but also the emergence of funk as well, because he was one of the people behind the Crusaders and recorded a number of albums with them. There was that boxing match, the Rumble in the Jungle. Stuart organised the festival around it and all the acts. And that was in 1974. And it was Zaire 74. I remember telling us stories about when they were on the plane with James Brown and all these other people.
God.
And it just sounded like absolutely amazing. I think when he first heard Simply Red, he came to a gig of ours in London, I think we'd signed or we were just about to sign the label. I think he liked what he was hearing with Mick, but what he heard in the music, he kind of thought it was a bit like a review, like a bit of a Blues Brothers type thing. So when we first got into the studio with Stuart, we went to Holland to do the first recordings, we literally ripped all of the songs and arrangements apart and changed everything. It wasn't like we'd had everything rehearsed and went into the studio and did it. We did have it rehearsed, but we actually just started from ground zero with a blank canvas and changed everything and really brought, some originality into it then from the probably, I don't like to use cliched approach, but, maybe a naive approach perhaps. And we brought a complete originality into what we were doing. So it wasn't just the blue-eyed soul type thing.
Right, next track, Inner City Blues. I don't know, is this because it's got city and blues in the title, or if there's another reason for this choice from Marvin Gaye, Chris?
Yeah, I'm slipping some subliminals in here now for the new Premiership champions. No, it's as current today as it was in 1971, this. We seem to have gone backwards with what's going on in the world, I think. The right wing, the racist climate that's around the world these days. And it's just a great song, and I love this from the album What's Going On. And it's the album. This is the days when an album was a complete album. It wasn't just now we just have a single. Most stuff is crap, and I'm not being snobby or ageist about that, but I can't think of an album of anything these days that I would sit and listen to and play again and again and again.
Right, I'm going to have to send some stuff your way, Chris.
Yeah, fine. Good for you.
There's a few out there. I drifted off from music for a bit, and it could be an age thing, but in the last 5-6 years, I think it's interesting. A lot of it being influenced by some of the music you're talking about this evening as well, and some of the music you would have been doing back in the late 70s, early 80s stuff as well. So it is interesting.
Well, I'm still very open-minded with music, and I still do listen to new things, but if not a lot turns me on. One of the artists I haven't mentioned in this list is a guy called Robert Glasper. I don't know if you ever heard of him.
No.
Right. Well, there's an album he brought out in 2012 called Black Radio. Maybe have a listen to that.
Oh, wow.
Get that on your show.
Of course I will. Right, this is Inner City Blues.
Go.
Da This ain't living, this ain't living. No, no, baby, this ain't living. No, 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 no. Inflation, no chance to increase finance. Bills pile up, sky high. Send that boy off to die. Oh, made me wanna holler the way they do my life. Yeah, made me wanna holler the way they do my life. Oh, baby. La, 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 la. Everybody thinks we're wrong. Mother, who are they to judge us? Mother, mother, simply cause we wear our hair long. Mother, mother, ooh.
Hi, I'm Adi, and each week on the 70s Soul Show I'll be playing the best in soul music from the 70s and very early 80s. Plus, I'll be joined on the phone for a quick chat with a star of that great decade, and I'll also be previewing new releases from those artists we remember. That's every Sunday from 9 PM right here on Indie Rocks Radio.
absolutely great track, and also a political album, but a political track as well, sounding so amazing. It's I think you are right. We do need more of that out in the current times.
And just very original. It's not aged at all, I don't think. And that's with the original Motown house band, the Funk Brothers.
Did you stay in music after Simply Red? Did you take a break from it? Were you always kind of keeping going?
I stayed in music, but I stopped playing for a while. So I opened up a recording studio in Manchester, 1993 or something like that, 94. And ran that for a number of years, and also it's very much in the emergence of, well, not the emergence, there was a lot of dance music around at the time, and I started a dance record label called Planet Fall, and had a lot of worked with a lot of Manchester artists and DJs, and a lot of Italians as well, because I had some Italian friends that we were collaborating with. Anyway, that kind of, it all burnt itself out, and after the whole Simply Red thing, I was kind of burnt out with playing, and I'd lost quite a bit of confidence with it all. And it took a while for me to kind of get that back and find, I got sick of the business of music. I needed to get back into music itself and find passion again.
Yeah, was the confidence thing to do with the business of music, or to do with just being tied up in one thing for so long?
It was the business of music, and, just the way people treated each other. And people, you thought had been kind of, you'd had a friendship, and it just turned.
Gotcha.
It was business.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
And in terms of classic story. You kind of mentioned earlier when we were talking about The Who, we talked about School of Rock, and you mentioned a great film, but from someone who teaches music as well. And that's something you've been doing for a few years now. And where you're based as well in the Calder Valley, there's a lot of new great music coming through. And,
there is.
And I'm sure quite a few drummers have probably gone via you as well.
They have.
When did you make the decision to become, right, I'm gonna start teaching drumming now?
For many years, I've shown younger musicians things, and got people turned on to this, and just like playing music like this, and listen to the drums on this and stuff like that. And probably about 12 years ago, I kind of formalised it and got myself a room and put the drum kit in there and a practice pad, and started to give lessons, and I knew what I was doing as far as drumming was going, but I didn't know what I was doing as far as teaching was going. And over the years, I've honed my craft now. I think what I bring to teaching is, I've got a lot of experience, I've got a lot of knowledge, not just about the playing, but about the business as well. And so depending on where people are at in their, their age, the development, if they're playing with bands, then there's a wealth of experience I can draw upon to give advice and help people out, and I found I'm actually quite good at it, and I enjoy it.
And the students enjoy it. I know that for a fact. They definitely enjoy it, and it's like I said as well. It is having an influence on the kind of music that's coming out of that part of the world as well. So that's great to see. Would you ever be tempted to go back into? Because I know you play music yourself still, but the production side of things, the recording studio side of things. I know it can be done in a different way now, but
yeah, I'm in this period of. The past few years, I've got a setup at home now where I've got my own sort of small drum studio. For a little home studio, it's quite an elaborate little setup, so I can record drum tracks here, and I do tracks. I work with a guy called Adrian Sherwood, who's got a record label called On You Sound, and I can actually set up and do tracks for him and send stuff down to him. He lives in Kent. I did some last year he was working with Gary something, I can't remember his second name, who was a guitarist with Captain Beefheart, and I did some drum tracks with them. I don't think they've come out yet. I've got a mix of one of them, which sounds great, but I don't know if it's going to be released or not. And the band that I've been working with this past few years called Dovetails, we've done various gigs around Manchester and around these parts. Everything like that is on hold at the moment. So my one live gig of the week is my Chris Joyce Drums Facebook live stream on a Thursday at 6:00. So I'm plugging my stuff here now. So it's free to get in. And if people go to the Chris Joyce Drums on Facebook, then the whole archive is there of all the shows I've done anyway. So
I thought you were going to say it's free to get in, but the drinks are a tenner a pint or something like that. But it's free to get in, and they're great. And you've obviously invested a lot of that over this last year or so, and it's something that's absolutely brilliant. I'd urge anyone to have a look at it as well.
Yeah, I'm just talking about songs and drums and drummers, and you don't have to be a drummer to come and enjoy it. Really, I've got people that come and they say it's like radio show, and they really enjoy it. And now I've got people from Brazil who turn up every week, America, Portugal, Poland, lots of places around the world. So we've got this facility these days of being global in our front rooms, haven't we?
It's great. It's absolutely brilliant. I think it's only going to get bigger, Chris, as well. Right, we're going to leave with one last track. Kind of Blue was the album. There's the Blue reference again. It's been an absolute pleasure having a chat like this with you, Chris, and listening to some great music as well.
Very welcome.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Very welcome. Thanks for asking.
Cheers. No problem. This is Miles Davis.
See you.
Rocks Radio. Born in Manchester, raised across the world.
Yes, and Miles Davis on Indie Rocks Radio, and that's what you get when you do a section called They Say I Live in the Past, and you get to interview such wonderful people like Chris, Joyce,